You know what? No fanfare this time. No catchy prelude text or anything of this sort. In fact, I'm not even going to be on here very long. I just wanted to jump in real quick. Again, still not quite in my ready mode just yet. Still got some things I'm working on. But it's progressing along. But in the meantime, some of the things I've been reviewing have been kind of keeping me up to speed just a little bit. And just these last few minutes ago, I got finished listening to Black Authority's expose / rip, whatever you want to call it, against T.J. Mugshot Harris, as I call him. And it was an extremely powerful video, very detailed. Naturally, I went and I saved it because it's not going to take any time at all before it ends up getting attacked and quite possibly ripped down as a result of YouTube's little whatever they have going in the background network there that are just so hypersensitive to people's complaints that they'll just rip stuff down and flag it off without even bothering to review to see what this situation's all about and everything. So this was one of the reasons that I decided I was going to leave YouTube altogether. Well, unfortunately, not altogether. But when they essentially tell you what they're about and what they're going to keep doing, then you have to find alternatives, and that's why I made the move off and I designed my own homepage channel, despite the fact that I knew that it was going to affect subscription numbers and numbers of views and all that stuff. But it doesn't matter to me. I want the freedom and the liberty to actually present my perspectives, my projects, whatever, in a way that's comfortable for me, that I have a little bit more flexibility and a little bit more control over. And YouTube decides they don't want to do that anymore, so I look at the other alternatives in order to satisfy my needs. But that being said, I decided that it's still not going to keep me away from trying to stay up to speed with some of the stuff that's going in. And as I said, it took me a long time before I actually came in and really started to try to see what else was going on. And of course, really nothing new under the sun so much. It's pretty much all the same drama and the same histrionics and whatnot, the stuff that I really wanted to get away from. But this expose by Black Authority really, let me put it this way, it should have put the final nail in TJ Mugshot's little coffin that he pretty much dug for himself. But knowing people as I know them, which is why I tend not to stand behind groups of people or groupthink anymore, because people have their own little agendas, and no matter who screws them over or how they get screwed over, they're still going to flock with whatever mistreats them if they feel that it satisfies some other need or some other little aspect of their mentality that they get stroked by. So don't expect Mugshot Harris to go away anytime soon, and don't expect him to lose all of his supporters. That's just based upon what I know about people and about human psychology. But be that as it may, the fact that this is going to serve to help him lose a lot of that credibility, it's a good thing, of course. But my whole question, which has always been my question, and it's even more relevant now, is the same question I've always been asking. Why is it taking so long for people to figure this fraud out? You know, everybody's looking to this brilliant expose by the Black Authority, who just essentially gives him no chance whatsoever for Mugshot Harris to actually weasel his way out of this. There's no damage control that he can do. It's not going to affect his numbers, granted. Well, correction, it will affect his numbers, but it's not going to affect him in the way as it should, which is to cause him to lose absolute credibility. Because there's still going to be those people who are just going to want to sniff up behind his crotch because, as I said, he strokes their ego in a certain way to where they don't mind that he's anally raping them, essentially, by playing with their heads. So that's going to be a given. But for the people who are now figuring it out, for the people who are especially taking the Black Authority's expose of this thing, and they're saying that, oh, wow, this puts Mugshot Harris in a whole new light now. He's lost all his credibility with me. I'm like, why did you wait until mid-2014 to finally figure out what I understood and what I knew about this creep back in early 2012? It didn't take long for him to actually establish a presence on YouTube and everywhere else with his fake phony numbers and his made up Twitter numbers and what have you, and all of his little fake beefs that he would stir up with himself in order to gain notoriety and popularity and get support. I knew this person was a fraud early on. Yeah, I took the bait for a while. I got sucked in because, again, he was speaking on some things which I said, hey, this is more validation of some of the points that I've been making that I'm trying to help popularize. And if he's got the voice that can do it better than I can, then fine, I'll stand there and I'll give him credit. And I'll allow him to speak on these issues, and I will support that. But as I said, I watch people and I pay attention to people, and I know that if you let people talk long enough, eventually they will show you who and what they really are. And see, the one thing I realized about Mugshot Harris is that he was playing everybody. And very few people at the time were bright enough or were attentive enough to figure it out. And when they tried to expose him and they tried to let it be known to everybody, it's like, look, this fraud is duping you. Then he'd send out the war whistle, and then here comes all of his little mindless herds just coming in and just causing all sorts of utter chaos and just trying to discredit anybody who was rightfully discrediting him. So anybody who challenged him or came up against him were the bad guys. But as I said, I recognized early on what this clown was doing and what his whole goal was. And I tried to explain it to people as like, look, it comes down to one basic simple truth, and that is consistency. You have to be consistent in your arguments and in your point of views before you get my respect or you get my support or any such thing. Now, I'm speaking on behalf of Black Authority, a person who everybody knows that I do not agree with 100%. And sometimes the issues that we have our opinions on, we're dichotomous opposites of each other on certain points and certain issues. So we won't see eye to eye 100%, and we never will. But you know what? I admire Black Authority, I respect Black Authority, and I will support Black Authority as far as, like I said, unless it gets to the point where we don't quite see eye to eye. But I will never diss my brother Black Authority, because even though we have vast disagreements in areas, the thing I admire about Black Authority is the man is consistent. He will tell you what he stands for, why he stands for it, and he will stick to his guns until such later time as maybe he might come to an epiphany and say, well, hey, I need to reevaluate and I need to re-examine my position on certain things, and I need to readjust my argument in order to fit into what I feel is a more clear. And that's what I admire about people, is that they have a position, and if it gets to the point where they have to do some soul searching, they have to re-examine themselves, and they're brave enough, or as I call it, man enough, to come to the point where they say, okay, time for me to change my views or my perspectives on a certain thing, but I'm still going to stand on principle. You will always win my respect that way. So here is an example of just that with Black Authority. He finally came around to realizing what I knew early on, which is Mugshot Harris is a fraud who's playing black people against each other. Now, if people who want to follow in that camp, if that's what they're down with and they're good with that, fine. I can't tell you to stop driving the spike in your own foot. If you want that kind of self-torture and whatnot, fine, go ahead. But understand that there are people whose eyes are wakening up, and they're going to see this fraud and this charlatan for who he was. Why do you suppose I did that upload comparing him with Jameis Simmons, which at this stage, I think I'm going to repost that link so everybody can take another look at that to see exactly how I was making that comparison, to try to show people in an example of somebody else who is not Mugshot Harris, the fact that these two people are practically mirrors of each other. So what you see in Jameis Harris, correction, well, I may as well say Jameis Harris because that's essentially, like I said, that's who you're dealing with right now. But what we saw in Jameis Simmons, you see the same thing in Mugshot Harris. You know, this whole thing about his made-up identity, trying to claim that he's Afro-Latino. You know, Sotomayor is a made-up name. That is not his family name. You know, this whole idea about I'm going to do this this documentary on fatherlessness or this, that, or the other. When he started doing that, I kept shaking my head. I was like, now, no way possibly Is anybody going to be that stupid and that gullible to give this man even so much as a dime? Ha! Fooled the hell out of me, didn't you? But again, as I said, never underestimate the stupidity of the American mind. And especially, and I hate to say it, but especially the black American mind. We are some of the most gullible people on the face of planet Earth. That's why we don't advance and go anywhere. Because we want to believe everything except what we know in our hearts to be true and correct. So, go figure. But in any case, I just want to wrap this up, and I just want to say that, hey, it's good that people are finally starting to wake up. But anytime I come into situations like this where it's obvious that you're being duped and taken advantage of and played like a fiddle, I always have to come back to, why does it have to take so long? It should be blatantly obvious from the get-go, or at least it shouldn't take very long to figure out that, hey, somebody's jerking my chain and dragging me by the nutsack. I'm not down with that. I'm going to cut that loose, and I'm going to stay on a more noble path. But hey, as they say, better late than never. But of course, as I prefer to say, better early than late. Check out that link where I uploaded the Dateline episode expose of Jameis Simmons, so that you'll see that what I was trying to show was that Jameis Simmons and T.J. Mugshot Harris were essentially two peas in the same histrionic pod. And please watch yourself, and don't be so damn quick to throw your trust and confidence behind somebody who just talks a good game. Find out who they are and what they're about, and see with clear eyes whether or not a person is for real or if they're running a game on you. You'll save yourself a whole lot of misery and embarrassment by doing so. End of line.